Hi guys, what's going on, and welcome back to another video on Conqueror's Blade. So, the Shenji Grenadiers, we're finally there. Well, mostly there. 28, close enough. Almost got them fully leveled up. But they have been quite an interesting unit. Not kind of what I expected in many ways, although actually more balanced than perhaps I thought they were going to be. We didn't really know a lot about what we were going to be getting before they really came out. And so, from the few clips I had seen, I kind of was concerned some of the grenade explosions looked fairly dramatic, and I was expecting the grenades to be pretty overpowered. They are still effective, they are still very powerful, but they do have quite a long cooldown, and at least they don't really apply a burn, which is kind of what I was expecting them to do. So let's break down the unit a little bit more. Obviously they've got the grenade, and obviously they're still a musket unit, so in that sense they've kind of got two distinct aspects, and that's kind of reflected on the two abilities they have. They have an area attack, as any musket does, you can just fire in a straight line, target them wherever you want to, or they'll just auto attack on their own. They don't get anything like a volley fire or anything like that. They still have a 3 ranks formation like the Imperial Arquebusiers before them, but they don't get that volley fire. So actually their DPS, because they're a 15-man unit as well, is significantly less than the Imperial Arquebusiers. But they do get some benefits. They get the grenade. They get significantly more health. So they do have at least some more survivability to them. The musket damage as a base is nice, and they are quite accurate, definitely more accurate than the Imperials, the tier 4. They do get a precise aim, which we can see. And then once you throw that on with the doctrine, which are, the 20% shooting accuracy doctrine, it starts to come together and it's actually kind of relatively nice. The base sort of damage is pretty good. You can sort of crit for 4, 5, 6,000 depending on what you hit, and your base damage is quite good. And because of the accuracy, you can actually kind of hit out to pretty decent ranges and still be expecting to hit things. So yeah, muskets I like, not as high as the tier 4 and the DPS, but still very effective. Which leads on to the musket bomb. I like the musket bomb, but I think it's more balanced than I thought it was going to be. The best thing about it is actually its throwing arc. So it lobs them really high, so they sort of mortar up and over things, far more so than, say, like the Cyclanian militia with their little fire grenades. So it means you can actually lob them over walls, over obstacles, a lot more than anything else. It kind of changes the map layouts a little bit, because previously safe spots are no longer safe, so you can't quite camp in corners quite as much as you used to with a lot of these units now around. The damage from the grenades is good, but it's not crazy. They don't apply any burn, but it does have like an explosive radius. When you throw them into quite a large clump of people, it does, spread that damage over a lot of different people. It hits pretty hard, but it doesn't apply any burn. So it's unlike the Cyclanian militia in that sense. So unless you sort of get the kill with the first hit, you don't get a follow-up burning to it. With the doctrine that you can get while you're going through the missions, then you can normally get 3 grenade throws out of them. But the main balancing factor for me is the fact that the grenades have quite a long cooldown. It's over 30 seconds, it's like 38 I want to say, maybe 35, something like that. And that really sort of limits how often you can throw these things. It makes the grenade for me a secondary weapon. A nice secondary weapon, don't get me wrong, but more of a secondary weapon. The only other benefit it gives though is after you throw it, it basically gives you a 10-second boost to the unit's musket. It means that they shoot quicker and more accurately, and noticeably so. So it does make a reasonable difference. It means you kind of get your musket bomb goes off, and then you get 10 seconds sort of extra damage output from them. You have to bear in mind though that if you move the unit while, after you've sort of throw the grenade, then move them, then that immediately cancels that 10-second bonus. So you have to sort of get in position, throw, and then stay still for that 10 seconds to be able to get that bonus for the unit. So that is kind of worth bearing in mind. Veterancy line-wise, I've gone over the top line. As I say, for me, the grenades are great, but they're a secondary. So I've gone down the line that's focusing more on the musket's damage. Some interesting things down here, like the rate of fire, although I've heard that reported that it's actually not currently working quite properly, and it only is actually currently applying a 6% boost, so hopefully if that is the case, that gets fixed shortly. A little bits of extra ammo, some extra range, an extra 10% accuracy, things like that, all make a really nice difference. And even the block break is relatively effective. 200 is a reasonable amount of block hit, so that's going to be reducing shields and sort of hitting through heroes who are blocking and stuff relatively quickly. On the bottom line is more towards the grenade focus, things like that cooldown reduction, but even with a 4-second cooldown reduction, it's still a fairly long cooldown. There is a doctrine that reduces it by a further 2 seconds, but I don't think that's really worth doing. It's also worth bearing in mind that the grenade throw is actually quite a lot further than it suggests by the sort of initial throwing radius, and if you're up high it goes even further still, so you get really quite a long distance on them. So doctrine wise, what have I gone for? Pretty basic stuff. Accuracy 20%, well worth having. Rate of fire by 16%, really nice little addition there. The increased damage against heavy, shielded and crossbow units, or Pavese crossbow, is nice, not so much for the musket damage, but it also applies to the grenade damage. And that basically means you almost sort of double the grenade damage when you're throwing them against shields. So in that sense, really nice, really well worth having. The extra grenade supply increase, and I wouldn't necessarily pick this one, I would definitely like something else, but this is all I've really got available at this moment in time. I'd quite like a siege damage, a siege fighter. I would also quite like there's an arquebus defense increase one, which would be quite nice to have as well, but I don't have one to hand, so can't put it on. But anyway, talked enough or far too much already, so let's hop into some games with them, see what we can do with these Grenadiers. We're going to run through a short series of clips now, but initially they often run in a similar format. See a large group of enemies, we'll get the grenades in first, and just look at the damage burst we're going to get out of that. But we also get that 10-second boost following the grenade throw, and so we actually pick up another 20 or 30 kills from that. Really effective. Just cuts through because their rate of fire and accuracy really goes up, so it makes them super effective. But also interestingly, the units are really nice as a sniping unit because they're more accurate than other muskets. You can sort of do this with other muskets, but it works really well with these on the snapfire. So using the one key to force them to aim in a certain direction. But look at the tightness of the cluster. This musket's going to come back round. Such a satisfying kill. But that's over a reasonable distance for a musket unit to snapfire like that, and you saw how tight the grouping of the musket shots were. And as we come over, I don't actually know how much health this glaive had left, but still, we can just do the same thing again. With the crest, bomb, and he's dead. The sniping ability of this unit, sort of as an anti-hero sniper, is really quite nice because they are fairly accurate. And that's really how I'm looking to use this unit, looking for these opportunities as well. We come along here, I don't really like this top ledge, but it actually nicely demonstrates a little bit about the grenade range, because you can actually get some serious range out of them. Even though I'm not along the bottom veterancy line, not the range boosting line, but look how far they chuck these grenades, just because I've got a little bit of a height advantage. Doink. We were able to get a cheeky hero kill out of it. And then the unit obviously gets their 10-second boost and goes to work merrily blasting away at anything that moves with the muskets. A little bit far away really to begin to getting too many hits from here, but still kind of demonstrates how the range increases a lot with height. Finally, we then move on to Heilingsford. A little bit of an interesting match this one, not necessarily because it goes particularly well, but just a few little features about the unit that I wanted to highlight. It's quite a hard unit, well, it's quite a hard map to push this one. Really, I would want to be taking melee on this map. You can quite easily get into the situation where you have a lot of people like me, in this case, using melee. But because all the enemies hide around this corner, the grenades do sometimes pan out quite nicely. But this wasn't one of them. You can see the throw, a little bit behind. And that's one thing you really have to think about with this unit. The delayed grenade strike. It takes quite a long time to throw. But following that at least, we actually probably picked up more kills with just the musket fire. Because of that 10 second boost that you get following the muskets, the increased accuracy, the increased rate of fire means they push out a lot of damage really rather quickly. And in that capacity, they work really well. They then had quite a bit of trouble actually seemingly with the AI auto-aiming, so we put them on a manual aim and immediately got a hero kill, so it seems they worked a little bit better in that. I pulled back slightly because I was getting a bit nervous that we'd really ran out of melee units at the front, and we were kind of getting back on the back foot. Go for another grenade throw, a little bit more effective this time, again getting that 10-second boost. Trying hard to remember to not move the unit during that 10-second boost, because remember, if you move them, that sort of rate of fire and accuracy boost is going to disappear because they can only do it while stationary. Managed to save that bow player from that maul grab. Just clipped him with the back of my lockable strike. And at that point, I decided to send the unit back to the supply point to go and sort of rearm and re-ammo and then fight on a little bit as a hero. Lovely treb strike there into those palace guards. Really, really nice move. And with the team, we start to get a reasonable amount of pressure now on the A point. Things initially looking good, but unfortunately enemy reinforcements turn up. And we get a little bit caught into the fighting once more. So close to getting the cap, but not quite. By this point though, the units re-healed back up. I'm starting to pull them back towards me. Trying to avoid these Keshigs. Another unit that we really need to revisit because they've got a really significant sort of buff and change around. So something I really want to change. Really worried about these Cav because I know I'm pulling the unit to me. They're going towards my unit. I try and go for a preemptive grenade throw. Unfortunately, they get stuck in a little bit and actually kill quite a few of the unit. We do control and kill the hero, but it highlights one of the points I wanted to talk about is the unit isn't all that tanky. They have the hit points. They don't have the tank of the Tercio. Tercio are, I guess the only way I can describe it is these like soft stats. Tercio are tankier than their stats really suggest. And these guys are the opposite. They're slightly less tanky than their stats really suggest. Unlike these Axe Raiders, which are far tankier than their stats suggest. They're crazy. So we have to start throwing some grenades at them as well. Unfortunately, at this point, we know it's going to be a defeat. We were so close to getting that 8 point. But it did highlight a little bit about how soft the unit can be when you get caught out of position. And that's the same for range. You know, whether you're getting shot by range, whether you're getting shot by melee. If you find yourself out of position, the unit will melt really quickly, and there's only 15 models. But anyway, we shall end the video there. Definitely going to be playing some more of these guys, because they've definitely got a lot of potential, and I've not really quite been able to string it together into one really good game, quite like I'd have liked to have been able to. So yeah, definitely going to play these a little bit more, so we will probably see another video on them in the future. Probably going to move on to Keshigs next. Also tempted to have a little dabble in some Sea Stag Death Dealers as possibly the worst unit in the game at some point, but we shall see. See which ones ends up going first. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Do let me know what you think in the comments down below, and of course subscribe to the channel for loads more Conqueror's Blade content. Thanks for watching guys, see you all on the next one.